This episode of Warriors Plus Minus is brought to you by The Athletic. There's a special 7-day free trial if you use this code and a 25% off discount if you buy a subscription. It's theathletic.com/plus minus.
All right, we're here at Oaklandish. Tim Kawakami, Marcus Thompson. Another episode of Warriors Plus Minus. And it comes after an interesting game, TK.
A loss! Oh my God. Panic.
I think I might have called that one. Did I call that one?
At least we knew it was going to be a tough game. Warriors in Boston.
It was more tough than I even thought it would be. They lost Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, and somehow they still managed to play in a style that bothers the Warriors. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know if Boston will make the finals, but if they do, that is an interesting matchup.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, they might not have the lineup to get through Cleveland, to win 4 out of 7 against Cleveland. We'll see. Still don't know who's guarding LeBron. Maybe Jaylen Brown, though.
Jaylen Brown was out of his mind.
But they are a tougher matchup for the Warriors right now than Cleveland is. So if they get, I don't know if this is a roster to get them through the finals this year, this season. But it is a lineup that is going to mess with the Warriors if they ever see them, every time they see them. I mean, even before all this, they've now beaten the Warriors 3 out of 5 times in the last 5 meetings. There's a reason for this because they play a tough style for the Warriors particularly.
Specifically for the Warriors, right? Jason Tatum, he didn't have a good game. He didn't have a good game, but you can see how he and Jaylen Brown is a problem. Like, and you know what? Jaylen Brown kind of outplayed KD. Right now,
no question. He leaned on him. He leaned on him physically.
It was interesting to watch this, second-year guy, not a lone shooter, kind of say, all right, I'm going to go at KD, and it worked. Yep. And, KD did not respond with let me put this guy in his place. No. And neither did the Warriors in general. Their whole game wasn't like that. Very little adjustments, very little. They kept shooting, even at the end. They just kept jacking threes. Yep. They didn't make any changes at all from the bench or on the court. Yep. And Boston really rolled that wave.
Yeah, even I was surprised they're down 2, get the possession timeout, and they call that play for Durant, which again, it's not a terrible shot.
It's kind of a terrible shot.
Yeah, it was quick. They didn't move the defense. They didn't probe the defense like Kerr likes to do. So they seemed a little bit like antsy. Steph, for sure, by the way, was antsy with the ball. He was not. The shot wasn't going in. He did not like being guarded by Marcus Smart. He just didn't want to bring the ball up when Marcus Smart was on him. That to me is always a key. It's like I don't want to necessarily bring this guy on me any more than I have to. Hey, you go bring the ball
Especially
up.
Especially if you don't feel like I'm going to get the call.
Yeah,
and that's where you probably want to see Steph manipulate how they're calling it a little bit.
Yeah, you got to lean in. You got to draw it, and he wasn't doing that. And, listen, one game, but Jaylen Brown's going to be a problem for the Warriors if they see him a lot. He's going to be a problem. He's going to be a problem for a lot of people. He's going to be a big problem for them.
And Kyrie is still a problem.
Yeah. At the end of a game, go beat somebody. That's tough.
I mean, that's just bottom line. All they have to do is keep it close. Put the ball in Kyrie's hands, and he's just been known to befuddle the Warriors. They don't have one guy who can just guard him. Yep. Like they got that guy for LeBron. Mm-hmm. They got that guy for Westbrook. They kind of have that guy for James Harden. Mm-hmm. Kyrie is just too tricky. He leaves Clay puzzled.
Well, plus they the switching is where they get him.
Yes.
Like he ends up with Draymond's got him. Now Draymond likes getting him, but it's still not the guy you would want guarding him at the top. They had Iguodala on him for a possession.
Yes, they did, especially down the stretch.
But you know what? Screen, switch, Iguodala's off on somebody else, and it's Clay on him, or it's Durant on him, or it's Draymond on him. This is what the Warriors do to other teams. In Boston, in a much slower way, much more limited offensive way, but they do it to the Warriors. They kind of take advantage. Ron Adams versus Ron Adams. What do you do versus a Ron Adams switching team? You make them switch early, and then you make them play the switch out. And Boston can do that. And then they finally got the guy who can go do it and go, just go find 6 free throws at the end of a game. Warriors have had that at times with Durant. Mostly don't have it. And by the way, what were they doing? Was Boston defensively? They weren't guarding Draymond. and they weren't guarding. If there was Draymond and a center, they weren't guarding either one of them. And say, go ahead, go beat
Zaza
us.
got that wide open dunk. It's like, oh, they're just not going to guard him today.
Yep.
And here's the odd part. I think Curry guarded Kyrie the best.
Yep.
Like he played
now he got
him
the
the
foul.
best.
You know,
Yeah.
he did
get the
all the
fouls
fouls on
because
him.
of it.
Not necessarily on Kyrie, but fighting through the traffic
Yes.
to guard Kyrie. And I think he was a little lazy fighting. Like he just was throwing himself.
Yeah,
into
there
it.
was one on. I think it was Smart or Rozier. He just grabbed him, and it's just like
they got a
Steph,
call. Yeah, they got a
you
call.
know you too. So why are you just grabbing dudes that run across the lane?
It's a little bit of a give up. It's a give up. Like I don't want to continue this play. He might score on me, so I'm going to go crash into somebody, and that happens. If you're just putting your Steph Curry and you could go for 3-3-3 at any second, you don't want to pick up that third for that fourth. You know, those sort of that foul trouble. And usually, by the way, Steve often keeps Steph in with 4 fouls early in the third.
No, he's
but
done
he took him out because he wasn't playing well. I mean, he just wasn't playing well in that game.
You know, we talked about this in our Warriors roundtable, just about how important Curry is. At what point does this become a little concerning? How dysfunctional they can be when he's off the court. You would think with what they have, they still should be good, but it's unbelievable. I was reading a piece today. I forgot the name of the guy who wrote it, but it was talking about basically Curry might be declining a little bit, but it was a stat in there. The Warriors are a 76-win team with Steph on the court and a 30-win team with him off. Like
I know, but that's.
They should not be.
Yeah.
They should not struggle this much without Steph, considering what they have.
I agree, but you got to look at it. They're loading up Steph with Durant, so it's basically Steph and Durant off the court. Are they? Are they a 30-win team with the 2 MVP players off the court? Yeah, because anybody would be. And by the way, Steph has a terrible game. And the Warriors lose by 4 in Boston.
Yes.
So, and Clay did not have a good game, and Durant had a middling game. Draymond had a really good game, except for he couldn't shoot the ball. Oh my God, I don't know what he was doing.
And then he hits one at the end. Like, no, don't take that three, Draymond. He's the one dude who makes a three.
Yep. But it does tell you they're still dependent on Steph, and that's okay. We've talked about it endlessly. It's okay.
Is it?
You're supposed to be good when you have Steph Curry on the court, and you're supposed to suffer when you don't have him. Now, again, Kerr wanted to balance that out with Durant on the floor when Curry was off, but it just doesn't. That hasn't worked the way they wanted it to work.
That's the part that's weird. Like, why is that not working? And it almost feels like it shouldn't work. But Steve Kerr is just. He's really on his Phil Jackson right now. Like, go work it out, right? Yep. We're going to keep our rotations. We're going to run the same thing we're going to do. You go work that out. And if you take an L, hey, that might actually be good for us.
Exactly.
But he's not saying, let's make this work. Let's figure this out. He's like, you guys figure that out. It's just weird that they can have Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green on the court and look like,
I swear, I should do the study on this. Clay does not make jump shots when Curry's off the court. It's unbelievable.
He probably should.
It's the same shot.
That's what you said in the roundtable. He's the most important two Steph.
Yeah, the together. It's like them together. And Kerr really wants Clay to be the leader of that second unit offensively, and it doesn't happen. How many times you go, okay, set up for Clay, force a shot, clank. Set up for Clay, force shot, clank. Other team scores back to back, and timeout. The Warriors just gave up 6 points.
And 6 feels like 15 on that unit, right?
Absolutely. They got to play incredible defense. That unit has to play incredible defense. And what they found out is, hey, Curry and Durant like playing together. They just like it. And maybe when Durant, Kerr can siphon some minutes for Durant in the playoffs with that second unit. And I thought he was going to do it last night, and he didn't. But
wouldn't
I think
that
they're
surprise
going to.
Did you tweet about that?
I thought like 9.5 minute mark. I go, I think he's going to be in
Durant,
there because he pulled him out of the third quarter in time to get him back in there. But I think Steve wants to play it out. By the way, we're talking about all this, and everyone's upset about the rotations or whatever. And they were up 4 with about 1:40 left, by the way, or 2, whatever it was, and they gave it up at the end. They still were in position to win this game. They still in position with Curry playing that bad game, with all the other things going on, with Kyrie getting into the lane, getting fouled,
and Jaylen Brown having the game of his life.
Jaylen Brown was incredible, and all the conspiracy theorists about all those the worst officiated game in the history of basketball. Apparently,
would they stop with that already?
God, it's such a small time mentality.
Just stop.
Yeah.
If they're calling it a certain way, you gotta adjust.
Yes.
Period.
And they were up. It's not why they lost a 17-point lead. By the way, the couple of foul calls at the end, but that happens. We're not good. But that happens. If they were up 17 in the third quarter, it isn't because foul trouble that you give it up. It's because you gave it up.
Yeah, it's
because you played poorly.
And even if the calls are bad, like that's on the players to adjust.
Yes.
Like this is how you're supposed to play. You got to read, just like you got to read the defense. You have to read the officials. You got to see how they're playing it and make the adjustments.
Yeah.
You just have. This is what Kyrie did. Kyrie had just as bad of a game as Curry.
Yeah.
They both are like combined 13 points until the game was on the line. And then Kyrie's like, all right. Let's get. I'm about to lean into you. I'm about to force the call.
Screen for the call.
Here's what we're gonna do. Like you just gotta make the adjustment, and everybody's on there like, oh, they lost to the refs. Like,
yeah, I don't. Maybe was the local broadcast really bad on that? I watched the TNT.
I watched the TNT.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure the local broadcast must have been bad.
What do you think?
For everyone to be like, everyone just became to this unanimous? It's the worst officiating ever. No. Maybe.
I mean, it was pretty bad.
But that's a regular standard NBA game,
question,
and it works the other way when the Warriors are at home.
No question.
It's like that's what I don't. Again, well, let's get off of this, but I'll just say what I don't understand. As I said on Twitter, the Warriors have won over 200 regular season games the last 3 seasons. You don't think there's been like 50 games where the opponent thought this? Maybe 80 games.
They think it anyway. They're saying the same thing.
Exactly.
Steph gets all the calls to the other team, right?
Exactly.
The other fans are like, he gets every call.
Exactly.
And then the Warriors fans are like, he gets no calls.
So for the Warrior fans to go through this era, to be in the middle of this era where they're winning 85% of their games, and then to lose one game by 4 and blame it on the worst officiating, that's small time. That's what a small market does, not a big market, and this is supposed to be a big market.
No question. I was thinking about the second unit. The major problem, even with Kevin Durant, is nobody draws a double.
Yeah.
And
some get like 0.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Nobody is forcing the defense to double, which is really a lot about what the Warriors' offense is. It's let's draw people away and create the 4-on-3.
And the defense has to make a decision.
Make a choice. Yeah. And with that second, you can play straight up, especially if you don't have Steph. You can play straight up. And you see teams, even though he's great and he's playing the most efficient basketball of his career, teams are still like, we'll just play Durant straight up. Mm-hmm. Even Boston did it. It's like, we'll just go, Jaylen, go ahead, play him straight up, which is unique. Why don't they double?
Well, one thing, Durant doesn't really go low.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't. Yeah. He's just too skinny for that. He drives into there, but he doesn't just isolate, give me the ball. Or if he does, you can lean on him and you can push him out.
It's going to be a jumper.
Yeah, it's going to be a fall away, and he's good at it sometimes, but not great. He isn't that kind of player in the system. They don't want to stop the offense. They don't want. It gets played onto the Warriors system. Like, okay, they're moving the ball around. They're not going to just freeze it and isolate him on a 6'6" guy who maybe shouldn't be guarding him. They just don't do it. And Kevin's not great at that either. If you lean on him low, he's not going to just turn into you and go up and over. That's not his game. And people come off of Draymond. And people come off of Iguodala. And I should have been watching more carefully. When Marcus Smart was guarding Steph at the end of the game, who was Kyrie guarding? Was it Andre? It must have been.
Was Andre in?
For a lot of it, for a lot of it.
Yeah, Andre was minus 18.
Yeah,
that was tough.
And he was good early, and then just nothing after that.
Yeah, he must have been high. No, he wasn't on Clay.
I don't think he was. They switched so much, it's hard to tell. But Smart clearly was on Steph.
Yeah.
And, again, you can always tell. I always remember Monte talking to Don Nelson in the locker room once, like, Monte, why didn't you have the ball? Oh, because I had Rondo on me. It's like it's a tell for me. Like when Steph's runs down the court and doesn't bring the ball up, who's guarding him?
Guarding him?
And it almost is somebody like Marcus Smart, or it's Patrick Beverley, or it's somebody like that. And that was happening last night.
No question about it. Now, how does this? Is there a fallout? Is this an impact? Does Philly get it? Do they rip off another win? I mean,
you would think the Warriors go wake up. Like we've seen them many times.
I think this impacts Oklahoma City game. I think that's the next one.
They got 2 days off before that one too, right? I mean, this is This is spread out for them to have a big. They don't want to have 2 big game losses, and Boston was one. But you know what? They were ready for the Boston game. I mean, it's not like they didn't play hard. They just didn't play and didn't make shots, and Boston was a little better at the end. But I just can't imagine losing in Philly, and I don't think they're losing in
Brooklyn?
Oklahoma City. No, I don't think they're losing in Brooklyn. Although,
losing.
is that back-to-back? I think there's a back-to-back in
Might
there
be
somewhere.
back-to-back.
Maybe. I'm not even
Saturday, no, maybe it's Saturday and Monday.
sure. But then Oklahoma City's Wednesday.
So it's got to be
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday, back to back. Now you're a rotation guy. You watch, you track. Where's Jordan Bell and Patrick McCaw?
McCaw's out. Like he's active, but he's been playing poorly, and
I mean Nick Young hasn't been killing it.
No. But Caspi, Steve's kind of stealing with both those guys. And you can see why he likes Caspi. There's some, people were wondering why Caspi wasn't playing earlier.
+4, come on,
Yes,
man.
listen, the guy does stuff. Now, he can be beat defensively. You can't throw him on a really good offensive player. But I can see Caspi getting some minutes. But McCaw just looks a little nervous out there. He looks, the number one thing you can't do when Steve Kerr is look nervous with the ball. You can't do it because you got to make a decision. You got to, you could pass it, but you can't look nervous. You can't be fumbling it around.
He just needs to feel comfortable with you having the ball in your
ball's going to move
hand.
to the right spot. You're going to take the open shot. You don't have to make it, but you have to take it and make it once in a while. And McCaw is just, he's out right now. Now, he'll get back in. This has happened before, but I'm surprised how quickly he's lost his confidence. Kurt played him a couple times. Played him again when he was bad, and then that's it. You're not going to get 3-4 games of this. And Jordan Bell, man, I think Kirk just has made his right now.
Like
Looney's
Looney.
better.
Yeah,
Looney's
Looney,
better.
yeah.
He's going to go one of them, one or the other. You're not going both. And Looney's his guy right now. And again, we talked a couple weeks ago. I was told that Looney's destroying him in practice. Again, I don't know that it's true, but the more you see
whatever's happening in practice, Looney is clearly like he should get the minutes. They're coming to the conclusion that Looney is earning it, which is weird because when we see Jordan Bell on the court,
he does stuff.
He doesn't look bad.
Plays pick and roll. I think Looney might be their best post defensive player though, like most reliable. Like stand on the post, somebody turns to shoot over him, he's right there. I don't think Bell is awesome at that, but I don't think he's terrible either. It's just an interesting combination.
Let's pause the hoop talk for a word from our sponsors. Listen up, hoop fans. Basketball season is back. So now that your favorite hardwood heroes have returned to action, it's time for you to put that fantasy knowledge of yours to the test and win some huge cash prizes every single night by playing one-day fantasy basketball at DraftKings.com. See, at DraftKings, there are so many ways to play. You can choose from public contests with huge cash prizes, or you can have private contests where you can just beat up on your friends. They've got even beginner levels and casual levels, just so you can play against people with similar skill. The best part, though, you get to draft a new team each day. You can be a general manager every single day. And drafting a team is probably the best part of fantasy. The only thing better than drafting a dope team is actually winning cash doing it. Just ask Dan from St. Louis or Jeremy from Austin. They both turned a $3 entry into thousands of dollars. Huge cash prizes and bragging rights. You can only get that at DraftKings. So, use code CLNS at DraftKings.com to play for free with your first deposit for your share of $10,000 in total prizes. Tonight, don't wait. Use CLNS at DraftKings.com right now to choose your lineup, and you can seriously cash out tonight. That's code CLNS at DraftKings.com. This is the game inside the game. Minimum $5 deposit is required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. Look, I know you need some holiday cash. Lucky for you, I know exactly where you can get it. MyBookie is the place to score serious cash on your sports predictions. Believe it or not, Thanksgiving just up the street. Christmas right around the corner. That means lots of parties and gifts and turkey and dressing and spending. But it also means that there's a lot of football, basketball, hockey games. A lot of chances for you to score big. So man up, play like the pros do on game day, and get your picks in. You can play the money line, side, or total. MyBookie is your hookup for all your betting needs. and it offers super fast payouts when you win. Where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. So if you want to make money betting the games, you got to go to mybookie.ag. They're the only site you should go to. They have odds on every matchup. And get this, a mobile site that makes wagering on your smartphone a breeze. So join now. MyBookie will match your deposit with up to a 50% bonus. Just enter promo code PROMOCODE to activate the offer. Visit mybookie.ag today. You play, you win, you get paid. Simple.
And we got a call here.
So we've got Tom Haberstroh, who is one of my all-time favorites, joining the Warriors Plus Minus. Just wrote a great piece that has me reconsidering my eating habits about, like literally my wife has been on me, and then I read your piece, and I'm like, she's right. Right. So, Tom, can you explain who you're with now anyway? Because we all remember you from ESPN, but you got like podcast ventures and freelance ventures, and how are you classifying your employment these days?
I don't even know. It's hard to get my head wrapped around it. But, yeah, I write for Bleacher Report's magazine. It's called BR Mag. And so a lot of my feature writing that I did at ESPN, you can find it there. But then also I do podcasts for the Basketball Friends, Spotlight Media Ventures. Our podcast name, the Basketball Friends, isn't quite nerdy like this one. This is the nerdiest podcast name I've ever heard in my life.
I feel like you came up with this. I feel like Warriors Plus Minus is something you would come up with.
I'm actually kind of jealous. So yeah, we were probably thinking like, let's do Plus Minus, and then you guys had it. So
believe it or not, Tim Kawakami came up with Plus Minus. Believe it or not, I can't take credit for that at all. And
you wouldn't do that to me.
Nah.
You wouldn't do that to me.
How is your podcast adventures? We know you're a podcast wizard. What's happening with that? That's been a pretty big shakeup for the people who were following, the True Hoop Empire.
Yeah. So the old podcast was a bit of like a Rasputin. It was just like it was dead, and then it wasn't, and it's dead, and then it wasn't at ESPN. We lost some people, and we decided to revive it at this new company. So it's called the Basketball Friends. Originally it was the Basketball True Pod, then it was the Basketball Analogy, and now the third iteration, which Jade Hoy, my man, the producer, you know Jade.
Oh, yeah, Super Jade.
He's the producer on this show with the Basketball Friends. So we got Big Waz, we got Zach Harper, we got Nice Kicks, the sneaker pod, that's on our network, as well as all your friends over at Light Years Podcast, Andy Liu and Sam Esfandiari. We're
I can't believe you guys co-opted them. Like that. Yeah. That's an epic move right there. That was big time. That was big time. That's how you understand the market and go and get the best. You just found a Robert Covington. That's what y'all did.
Yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun. And we were like only a month into this, but we feel like we've already hit our stride and we're feeling pretty good about things. So appreciate you having me on, man.
So tell me about this whole, veganism article and just the concept behind it. I know in football especially, we've heard, players, it's a bad sign to be a vegan. Kaepernick was knocked for being a vegan. I know of a player who is a vegan but doesn't want to say anything because he feels like it's going to be a knock against him. Tell me why you are uncovering this truth.
Yeah, so I saw from Kyrie Irving when he announced in the NBA Countdown set that he was vegan, or at least he was plant-based, eating a plant-based diet and not eating animals anymore. And that kind of piqued my interest, and I started digging into it and realized that, it wasn't just Kyrie, it was Dame Lillard, who actually we reached out to do the story with. And Dame Lillard said, I don't want to be in this. I'm going to turn it down respectfully because I don't know if I'm going to be able to commit to this long term. So that's what veganism is. It's like it feels really good, but you obviously still have the cravings for a steak or chicken wings.
Tell me about
or
it.
Even just milk, eggs, like that's all off limits on a vegan diet. Any animal-based products or any animal products, honey even is anti-vegan because it's made from an animal.
That's just going too far. Honey's okay. Like it's not like you're killing the bee.
Yeah, right.
I feel like even if you're vegan, you should be able to have honey. Like, what's wrong with honey?
I know.
This
I
is
feel
what
like
they
it's
do.
like
That's like hating on
tipping your
honeys.
cap. I feel like it's tipping your cap to the bee, right? You're like,
I
yo,
agree.
this is great.
They work so hard to produce honey. Would you just gonna leave it for Winnie the Pooh? Like, nah, that's not
Yeah.
cool. Now,
So what happened was, when I looked into this story, was that the NBA is simultaneously slimming down, and if you cover the Warriors, you know that this is their whole thing, is running fast, up and down, just kind of 7 seconds or less basketball, and that requires everyone to be fit, everyone to be in shape. And for a lot of guys, they can't do that unless they eat right. And so for guys like Kyrie, guys like Dame Lillard, they looked at their careers and said, I feel heavy, I want to relieve some of the stress on my joints, and so I want to eat right. And for Kyrie, it was a little bit more of a moral imperative for him, where I think he kind of felt like, I don't want to eat animals. That's wrong. But for a lot of athletes, it's just, I want to do it for career performance. Wilson Chandler, another one, Garrett Temple, they feel so much more energized, and you see it with Kyrie Irving. He's now scored 51 points in 31 minutes in clutch scenarios. So that's the last 5 minutes of the game within 5. Kyrie Irving is killing dudes. 51 points in 30 clutch minutes. So just over a half of basketball, he's already dropped 51 points. And you saw it last night. He was driving. He might have gotten some calls there, Marcus. But honestly,
maybe a couple.
He was going at him. So this was just another example of this, where Kyrie Irving, everyone thought on a vegan diet he might not have the energy to sustain it, but he's doing great.
Oddly enough, around here, you talked about how the Warriors like to stay slim so they can half pace. Steph's bulked up, and he looks obviously stronger. He says his weight is about the same, but he did add some upper body strength, so he's still around 192, 193. Do you think that has any factor on some of his percentages going down and what you see from Steph's production so far?
It's possible. I mean, his percentages are down. He's shooting a career low at 37% from three-point land, which is pedestrian. I mean, it's very human from Steph Curry. I did the math on this. He'd have to make 13 straight shots from three in order to just get back to average. For his career average, which is 43%, he'd have to go make. 13, I just counted in my head. 13 straight makes in order just to get to his average career shooting percentage from downtown. So I'm not putting it past him to do that. I mean,
right, that sounds like the second half.
Example. It might be a half of basketball he'll get 13 in a row, but this is where he's at. I read an article from Michael Pina where he's basically saying that his pull-up threes are down, not just in percentage-wise, but also in frequency. So maybe there's something to it. Maybe he's feeling a little bit slower. I don't know. I haven't talked to him about it, but he's definitely gained muscle, and that's the trade that you make. Like Roy Hibbert, I remember he was training one summer and bulking up with, I think it was Tim Duncan or something like that, where he put on like 40 pounds, and then he was basically out of the league in 2 years because he just couldn't move. He had too many back and knee injuries. So I worry about that with guys who bulk up. I'm not so sure I put Steph Curry in that category, but he's definitely not playing up to his abilities, and I kind of feel like we're just waiting for him to catch fire and then get back into the MVP conversation.
Harrison Barnes bulked up so he can, play power forward. That was the spot they had him at in the def lineup, and he ended up going 5 for 32 over the last 3 games in the final. There's probably something there. When you watch these Warriors, I know you watched the game last night. Explain to me, Tim and I were just talking about this. Why is it, despite having so many All-Stars, despite having Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, when Steph is off the floor, there's just this feeling of dysfunction, and they just aren't as potent. Can you put that into reason why it happens, even though they still have 2 or 3 all-stars on the court?
Well, I think a lot of it is just they're missing shots late. I mean, they're 2 and 3. They've lost 3 out of their 5 games in clutch situations. So game within 5 in the final 5 minutes, like last night, they blew that game. And they've only won 2 out of their 5 opportunities this year, and a big reason why. You look at Steph Curry, he's 2 of 11 from three-point land in those scenarios. Klay Thompson, 1 of 5 from three-point land in those scenarios. So combined, they're 3 of 16 from deep in clutch situations. You make a few of those, and this team's undefeated, right? They had one really bad loss earlier this year. But a lot of these clutch games that they're losing, if Steph Curry and Klay Thompson just hit their averages, I think they're fine. Look, their net rating, their point differential, like the way that they blow out opponents, they're going to be just fine. I think they're going to be fine. It's just in the clutch situations, they're having a little bit of issues on hitting their shots. And last night, there was a lot of coin flips that didn't go their way. So I'm not panicking over a team that's on pace for 60 wins with a point differential of a team that's like 70 wins. I'm not worried about them, especially because no one in the East has really taken that next leap. I know the Celtics last night, but I just can't see them really challenging the Warriors in a 7-game series unless they get another star next to Kyrie Irving. I think that defense was hounding the Warriors last night. I don't think they've seen a defense quite like that at all this season, and you saw how much problems they gave them, just constant pressure. And that's the number 1 defense in the NBA by far. But over a 7-game series, I don't think the Warriors fans need to lose any sleep over it.
So who then can do it? Who represents that challenge? If that is a blueprint, not everybody has, 2 6'8" wings with long arms or Marcus Smart to bring off the bench. But who do you see after just shy of 20 games is a legit problem for the Warriors or do have a chance of beating them in the 7-game series?
Yeah, I mean, did you see that score from Houston last
Yes.
night? I didn't catch any of the game, but they dropped 19
I watched
points by
the second.
halftime.
I was watching the second half. Like, wait a second, this is the third quarter just started. They had 100 points. Like, are you serious?
Crazy. So, yes, that was one game where Chris Paul came back from his injury. But I am not so sold that the way to beat the Warriors is. I don't think it's trying to match what they do. I don't think it's going to be matching their versatility because you can't. You can't find a bunch of Draymond Greens and Kevin Durant who can play point guard and play rim protector. You can't find a guy like Steph Curry who can basically shoot from half court, and the same deal goes for Klay Thompson. I don't think you try to match that because you can't, right? So if you're going at Floyd Mayweather, you got to bring something completely different. You can't go at him with the same game plan. So in that same vein, I look at a team like New Orleans with the Twin Towers, DeMarcus Cousins, and Anthony Davis, and I feel like they're squandering an opportunity to challenge them because they just don't have any shooters on that team. If that Pelicans team surrounded those Twin Towers with shooters, that would be my pick. But with that Twin Towers, if they could crash the boards and really punish them down low, and also shoot from deep, I mean, those 2 bigs are as versatile as you'll find in a league. DeMarcus Cousins, Boogie's numbers are insane. I mean, I think he's averaging 5 assists a game, 2 3-pointers a game, 2 blocks a game. He's balling out. Problem is that
with
they
no
don't
shooters.
Have the depth on the wings and no shooting.
With no shooters, he's doing that. How do you average 5 assists? When you look at the Warriors bench players, the depth is probably as best as it's ever been. What do you see when you see Jordan Bell, when you see Patrick McCaw, Omri Caspi? Are these guys going to be factors in a playoff series, or is it going to be a matter of, hey, top 8 guys, it's going to be Hampton's 5 plus Livingston and maybe one more?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot like when I was covering Miami during the LeBron years there. Mario Chalmers looks like an all-star next to those guys. And if you put Mario Chalmers on, say, the Memphis Grizzlies, right, he's just another player. But Jordan Bell has come in right away seamlessly, just playing great basketball for a rookie. Nick Young obviously fits in perfectly with what they're trying to do. Omri Caspi, same deal. I feel like these are great additions for the team. And then you get to JaVale, who doesn't know how to play defense. Like he plays defense like he's blindfolded. Like he doesn't know where
JaVale
to go.
McGee shade will not be tolerated. No, yes it is. Totally. Go ahead.
But hey, wait for it. I wasn't finished. But the best lineup that the Warriors have usually features JaVale McGee. When he's on the floor, the offensive rating is 125. No one else is above 120 on the team. So the offense is crazy, crazy good. I am not a JaVale hater like Tim Bontemps. I am not that guy. But I will say that, like, the defense is not very good with JaVale out there. But offensively, it's as high as anybody because of that vertical spacing and that kind of the lob threat that he brings. It's so hard to defend. So their depth is crazy good. And when Iguodala's shot starts falling, because right now he's shooting 18% from deep, when that shot starts dropping, that depth lineup is going to be unguardable, and we know that. We know the Warriors can hit another gear, which is scary because their record isn't great right now. Their point differential says that they're about a 70-win team, and they're performing in the win column as a 60-win team. I think they're going to be just fine, especially because, you know what, the Cavs are a total mess, and outside of, Golden State, I just don't know if anyone can challenge them.
Tom, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I really missed the big number. So tell us where we can get your numbers. Where can we listen to you?
Well, the big number will be coming back.
What?
Just, we got to get everything else in order, so don't worry about that. It's going to come back. I don't know if it's going to be called the big number. I don't know if ESPN still has rights over that, but we're going to bring back that and more. LeverageTheChat.com. We got some great podcasts up. We have a great animation, a cartoon about Mo Spates, hero to the Golden State Warriors, Mo Spates. And you can catch my Twitter feed at Tom Haberstroh. The podcast is The Basketball Friends, and we got Waz Speaks. We got we got a ton of podcasts. If you just go to leveragethechat.com, stop by, listen to a couple, enjoy yourself. And if you have any complaints, direct them to me, and I will be sure to bring it to the board and make sure that we address them. No, just give it a 5-star rating. That's
Give it a
all.
5-star.
Give it a 5-star rating.
Thanks a lot, Tom. I appreciate you, bro.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Warriors, come out to play.
Dream segment there for you, Marcus, huh? Me
Yes.
sitting there silently because I forgot my headphones.
Good job. Hey,
I do it all. I do it all here.
I've done a few
maybe
situations
where
I've left you hanging a little bit. He said the Warriors' point differential puts them at a 70-win team, but their record is
Not
shooting
there.
towards a 50-win team.
Yeah, interesting.
So do they end up at 60 wins?
Yeah, I think Kerr would be fine with 60, 62, 64.
Kerr is doing this on purpose. By the way.
Yeah, well, listen,
He's
he
increasing
doesn't
the degree
mind.
of
Yeah,
difficulty.
he does
on
not
his own.
mind that they drop some here and there because he does not want 70, 72,
74 to be,
73,
yeah.
74 anywhere in play, and it's out of play. But yeah, I don't think he minds them fighting through a couple tough games and see what they're made of, and then win 8 in a row, and then lose another one, and then win. But I don't think he's too interested in 25-game win streaks and all that stuff. This is a team that has done all that and has proven what they can do. And so it's just not that interesting to go just try to win all these games in a row. Just try to get better. Try to figure out what they need. Try to figure out what the rotation is. And he's going to bet on that over any other thing, than try to scrap out a 4-0 road trip. That's not that important to him.
If anything they've learned from going to the finals 3 years in a row and like going 73-9 and not winning a championship is that November really doesn't matter.
Yep.
Neither does December
Yep.
or January. Like the season starts in April.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if Houston's rattling them off and they're headed towards 64 wins, 65 wins, the Warriors are going to want to get 66.
Just because they want the 1 seed.
Yeah, they want the 1 seed. You want Game 7 at home, although they have not done.
Right.
That's been good and bad for them. But other than that, it's not that big a deal, and they want to play out the rotations. And we're going to see Jordan Bell back in the rotation at some point. Semi-rotation, maybe not the main rotation. You're going to see Patrick McCaw back in the rotation. Remember, he was out of the rotation for pretty large segments last
Yeah, he would
season
alternate with
Ian Clark.
Yeah.
And then who's making the shots in Game 5 at Oracle Arena against Cleveland? It's Patrick McCaw. So guys will get rest. I always watch Iguodala. I think Livingston and Iguodala are really important players.
Definitely Iguodala.
Because they can go flat. And Iguodala looked great and then went flat in that game. And that's a huge management situation for Kerr, and he knows he wanted them back. If he didn't want to manage them, he would have not supported bringing them both back like he did. But Sean didn't start off the season real well. Has played well lately, and Andre really hadn't had an offensive game until a little while ago, and last night for about 3 minutes, and then he's turning down shots. If those guys are flat together, that is the depth right there, because they can't count on Nick Young. They can't count on JaVale McGee. David West has been real good. Sometimes he can go flat too. Iguodala and Livingston are the guys that give them real depth, that open things up, and haven't seen a ton out of it from them this season. And at some point, we're not going to see it at all. Whether it's in 2 years, 3 years, or 2 months, those guys, there's a little bit of an expiration date on them, and they know it. The Warriors know it. Those are 2 guys I think that Kerr is really trying to manage this season. Those 2 guys on one end, and then Jordan Bell, Patrick McCaw, all the young guys on the other end, Looney. In the middle, I don't think he cares. Right? The 4 guys, the Hamptons 5, including Iguodala, but the 4 All-Stars, we know it.
They'll be fine.
Yeah,
They'll be just fine.
They're fine. It's everything else around it, and the 2 old guys, David West may be included. I'd even say McGee, they know what they're going to get. It's going to be up and down. There's no point where they're going to go, we know what JaVale McGee's going to do when we put him. They don't know that. Then everything else is, okay, those 4 guys in the middle are great, and then just figure out how everything else needs to go. And they're in the early stages of the figure-out process for this season.
When you look, we saw Boston, we saw Philly. In 2 years, who's going to be the better foe?
Well, let's see what Boston looks like with Gordon Hayward, right?
Yeah.
We haven't seen that. That's another depth guy that teams have to guard, and is a better defensive player now than he was. We'll see when he comes back from the leg injury. But, man, Joel Embiid might be the best player in the league in 2 years. We'll see. I don't say that about many players. Karl Anthony Towns and Joel Embiid. And Ben Simmons is going to be – I don't think Simmons is going to be a problem for the Warriors. He's not a kind of guy who gives the Warriors problems. You just put Iguodala on him and make him shoot, and I think they're going to be okay. Joel Embiid's going to be a problem for anybody at any time.
That dude is insanely
that guy
good.
could be – if he stays healthy, he could be –
He doesn't even look in shape
No,
either.
he just does stuff. He just does stuff.
Like, if he gets in shape.
He's like Akeem with an outside shot. It's fantastic. It's worth giving up 2 seasons. It totally is worth giving up 2 seasons if he's going to be good, this good. I would say if Embiid is the kind of player we're talking about, then Philadelphia might be the best team in the East in a year or 2. If Simmons and then if they ever get Markelle Fultz going, but right now it's Boston. It really is Boston. I mean, I think the Warriors. We know the Warriors think that now.
When Steph Curry is saying after the game, I'll be here in June.
That's pretty bold.
That's all you needed to hear from Steph.
That's pretty bold. And that might have been a little shot at LeBron in Cleveland, but
a
little bit. But I'd say Boston is, again, we'll see how they get through the playoffs. They're going to have clunky games because they're not a good scoring
That's
team.
the problem. It's a matchup thing. It's not necessarily that Boston is the best team. They just match up with the Warriors so well.
And have for years, and now maybe even better, especially because Jaylen Brown, Jason Tate, those guys are just going up. I mean, before it was Avery Bradley's really good. There are times when he's not making a shot. Marcus Smart, he can hit 7 threes against Cleveland one game and then go for 11. Yeah, go for 11.
Somehow they always win when he's on the court.
Yep. Hey, what was he? Plus 13 last night, and the Warriors took the ball out of his hands
his
every time.
Plus minus is like
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous for somebody who really can't play that well.
Yeah,
but somehow when he's on the court,
you could
they're
say
winning.
Something similar about Draymond.
Yes.
You really could. Like, you don't see, offensively what's going on there, except for when he's making threes, but he doesn't often, and yet. Plus 11, plus 14, plus 16. It's just like the stuff, you could see it. Durant, you could see it. Sometimes you can't see it. Marcus Smart, you can't always see it. And when he's plus 12, whatever he was, with no offensive game against the Warriors, it tells you what kind of value he's really got.
And, Al Horford, man, does he ever miss? It feels like he never misses.
Yep.
And for me, when you looking at the two, at some point you just got to double Embiid and see if he can pass, right?
Yep.
But Horford is that tricky dude they got the 1-2 pick and roll, 1-5 pick and roll. You gotta worry so much about Kyrie.
Yep.
He can shoot the 3, and you almost have to say, Draymond, face guard this guy. which takes Draymond out the middle. Like, they just create these matchups that makes the Warriors have to do some things. Like, you got to counter with them. You got to have something. Steve Kerr just had no interest in countering. He's like, y'all figure this out. We'll worry about that later. But to beat them, he's got to do some things. Philly, I don't know if you have to yet.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll
but
see.
Embiid is just so good that you got to double.
And also
the
the
guy.
difference is right now Kyrie's just a guy that
Kyrie.
can close a game, and we don't know who Philadelphia has. I mean, a center
T.J.
doesn't.
McConnell.
Yes, the center doesn't usually close a game. I don't think Ben
J.J.
Simmons.
Redick.
I don't think Ben Simmons is closing against the Warriors.
Nah.
There's teams he's going to close
He just
against.
can't
He's not
shoot.
closing against the Warriors, and that's where I would put the difference. And I've been a Kyrie critic, but that guy can close. I mean, we've seen it.
He
now.
does one thing better than anybody probably in NBA history. Just go
Get
one-on-one
to the rim
and just and finish. It's unbelievable.
Either hand.
Slow, fast, like bring people at him. He'll just weave around them. Like, it's incredible
And
how
he
he
hits
can do
threes. I seem to recall. This is a nasty matchup, no question. Kyrie on anybody, but Kyrie on the Warriors is a closing. It's a dangerous thing for them to be in a game down the stretch, and Kyrie Irving being the
And
opponent.
Clay just looks sometimes. He just looks so frustrated. He's just like,
I'm right there.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm on him.
Yeah.
He feels
And
me.
he just extends
and he just
it. Yep.
lofts some shot, and it goes in. He's
either
like,
hand. That's either hand.
It's insane that he can do that. Warriors defense has picked up. Before we get out of here, Warriors defense.
Weren't you predicting that they weren't going to be in top 5 this season?
They still won't be in the top 5.
They're like 8 now. They're like 9.
I told you they're gonna hover around there, 8, 9.
They were 16 or 18 when we
I
talked
told you,
about
I
it.
said they'll be top 10. They won't be top
You
5.
said they'll be top 10 in a week. They're going to do that in a week.
This is where they'll be. They'll be somewhere between 3.
They're gonna be
10.
top. They're gonna be top 5.
Nah.
In fact, they will be in the top 5.
They won't
like
be
in a month
because
and a half.
they're not going to play so many fourth quarters, and the teams are going to just run up the points.
They're gonna be
in
top
the fourth
5.
quarter.
They're gonna be top 5.
They'll
Just
be
they're
like
gonna
seven.
because you're saying it.
I'll go with
and
7.
Draymond's gonna hear it, and we're gonna be top
Yeah,
5.
right. And Steph will not have a post All-Star game turn up this
Yes.
year, right? I think I've predicted that one wrongly before too, right? So what had Ron Adams? Did he just light a fire? So did he kick Draymond?
Yeah. Together, those two.
Yeah,
It was
right.
those two.
He went in on Draymond, who then went in on.
I also think Ron goes in on Kevin.
No question.
I think that.
But
happened,
when you
yeah.
watch that game, they played defensively. They played.
Durant
defensively.
played some help defense, which he doesn't always do. But he played great help defense. What I just love, again, I don't even know if it was a possession the Warriors actually stopped them, but Kyrie's out on a semi-break, and Draymond's trailing, and that's not his guy. And he's racing back. There's still someone else underneath. Draymond's racing back to make sure Kyrie's defended. That's special. You don't see that. And sometimes Kyrie's own guy doesn't run back to make sure Kyrie's guarded. So when Draymond is in that level, then everyone else has to be at that level, or else they're going to hear about it constantly. And I think Durant is somebody the coaching staff kind of circles as the kind of swing guy in this kind of, they know they can count on Draymond in the big moments. They know they can count on Clay. Others will see. Durant kind of
Steph's not fouling. He's pretty good.
We'll see about that.
If he's not reaching and grabbing, he's
Sometimes
pretty good.
he can't. I think Steph can't help himself.
He cannot help
Oh, my
himself. There's
God.
no question about it.
And
if you put the ball in front of him, he's going
you
to
got
swipe
5
at it,
fouls.
period.
If you get another foul, you foul out and we lose the championship.
And you put the ball in front of him, he's still going to swipe
bam.
for it. No question.
But Durant is the swing guy, and he's been playing really nice defense, and he's been blocking out better. And then when that happens, those two together, they're very tough. I thought we might see Jordan Bell a little bit in some of this, but that ain't happening. So not for a while. But we'll see. Here's the other thing: like JaVale McGee, what's going on with him this season?
I think it's Jordan Bell. It's
But
Kevon Looney.
Jordan Bell's not playing.
I know, but he's seeing these guys and it's like, all right, here we go. He didn't get the money he thought he should deserve. He probably still thinks he should be the starting center. And now you got 2 young guys who Steve is praising over and over. And I think he feels all of that. I think he sees all of it. And JaVale's
Like
not
all the praise he got last year.
Yeah,
he felt
that's
comfortable.
all,
Yeah,
that's all gone.
That's
now.
an interesting.
That's
point.
all gone.
That's an interesting point.
I mean, JaVale is an emotional guy. He's sensitive. He hears it. He feels it. I think it's a factor. And, you don't see him catching lobs like that anymore. I think teams are starting to say, all right, when JaVale comes in, we know what they're going to do. Let's just cover that.
Yep.
And he's not – they aren't just throwing him up either. Remember how they used to just throw him up? It was like Ringling Brothers.
Yep.
They're just throwing the ball in the air.
Not even looking.
Yeah.
We know he's going to get it.
And that's out. I think you're seeing – and this is what I was saying before, like – man, Steve has a lot to he just got to go check in with guys.
Yeah, no question.
It's just like some psychological journey. Every time you come in, how are you? What's up? Patrick McCaw for me is like the biggest deal.
Yep.
Because that's future, right?
Yep.
You're dealing with JaVale, maybe a couple year. Patrick McCaw is like you're banking on this guy to be a piece. He can't.
You might have to pay him.
Yeah,
by
you're
the
gonna
way,
have to pay
$8
him.
million a year. I mean,
No
that's
question.
on the horizon.
You cannot afford for him to just lose it and just lose his confidence. And he might not have a great year, but you still kind of need him to be developing. So Steve he's got his work cut out with him.
No question. Hey, this is year 4. I'm sorry, and you're not going to be the same every year. They're largely the same, but
the league is like, all right.
Oh, and they played a lot of games. They've been studied intensely. If we know it, they know it. Although sometimes I wonder about that because we seem to know things that other teams don't know.
I think Boston might have
listened to our show. Well, Danny Ainge listens to our show,
and I think other teams are
okay.
Let's watch Boston. Right?
Yep.
What are they doing?
Yep.
Let's watch. What did Detroit do?
Yep.
What does Memphis do?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It becomes apparent.
The Warriors like to pass the ball. You got to jump in the passing lanes.
You got to overplay. You got to chase them off the three.
You play smaller guys on their big guys so you can switch. That's the thing. The Warriors get the big guy switched on Steph, and they kill him. Well, if you have a middle-sized guy on it, Kerr does not want to do that pick and roll. I've talked about this. One of the reasons they don't do the Curry-Durant pick and roll that much is there's usually a really good long defender on Durant. So you want that guy switched on Curry? Maybe not. It just – there are reasons why long athletic teams bug the Warriors. We've talked about it over and over and over, and we just saw it last night. And that's after they gave up Avery Bradley, and they just plopped in another guy. And I think Danny Ainge likes those kind of players. I think Bob Myers likes those guys are very similar. Myers likes those. That's a part of what the Warriors have built. Now, Steph doesn't quite fit that, although he's long. He's not that kind of athlete though. But they, Livingston, Iguodala, those guys, McCaw, Draymond. Just jump the passing lanes over it, and Warriors don't overplay that much. But this is the new NBA. You talked with Haberstroh about lean. I think you were because I couldn't hear it. Lean, rangy players that cover a lot of space. This is the way the league's going. And then the ones who can hit threes are the ones who are great. And the Warriors happen to have more of those guys than anybody else.
All right,
Durant's pretty long too.
Durant's very long. Durant's very long, the longest of them all. All right, we're out. I got to go buy a shirt from Oaklandish. I see a hat and a shirt I want. Maybe we should get Ben to treat us to gear.
Oh yeah, I think about time. The checks that we write.
Actually, I think the editor-in-chief of the Athletic Bay Area should buy my gear.
Who is that?
Thanks to Oaklandish for letting us post up.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. Warriors Plus Minus is out.